how would you use a genie in your Dungeons and Dragons game, your Pathfinder game, your role-play game, your whatever game it is?
So I like the idea of a genie that's kind of a loser among the other genies, right? They're all just like, oh, your magic ain't even that good. You're kind of weak, son. And so like he does still grant wishes for people, but he just does it by hard work. And and like elbow grease and stuff. And he just really wants to make mortals like him because all the genie people think that he's the worst. And he's just like, he's the underdog.
No, I was going to say, so like if someone wishes for like 1,000 apples, he just goes and finds 1,000 apples.
He just goes and picks 1,000 apples for him.
I feel like there's a really great adventure hook there.
Is my command.
I think there's a really great hook there for an adventure where like the party makes friends with a genie who's really bad at magic, and they have to help him for a little while, fulfill random wishes.
All wishes will be filled in real time.
Yeah. Please wait 6 to 8 months for your wish to be fulfilled. That's so
Mallory,
funny.
that is a cool idea, Mallory. I love it. There's a movie called The Losers, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of that. But now we just got to replace them with just a genie who is a loser.
Well, I would focus on the different aspects of the rivalries between the genies, because between the Merid, the Dao, the Ifrit, the Jinn, then you got the Jan, which are like prime material genies, and then you've got a lot of the lesser known genies, like then they all hate each other. So you have, like, for example, a Jinn from the Mystara setting, which is the Solix, which absolutely hates the Ifrit. And they've been in a war for longer than they can remember, and they're elemental creatures. Hey, I'll give you a wish if you do me a favor. And they're like, here, just go over here and kill a bunch of people for me, will you? And you can get them all involved in elemental politics on the prime material plane. Like I said, I have the Mystara channel, so going back to there, you have the nation of Irendi, which actually has a portal to the elemental plane of fire, and they have tourism from the elemental plane of fire. And you have Ifrit and Solix going on tourist ventures, and they're supposed to be on their best behavior, but they are more than willing to, ask for some help to, like, oust some, uppity Ifrit. You can play it into the politics into the game, where they have to deal with, well, I'm not going to grant you a wish because you helped that Dao over there, and he's a jerk. And, so no, you're on your own, buddy.
So this right now, AJ is sitting on the side saying, this is where the genies have set up like a tourist attraction to various places, and the genies are responsible for sending the mortals there into places they shouldn't be going, and then sitting back and drinking fizz pop and eating popcorn, watching their lives fall apart. Why do I feel like this is where this is going, Mr. Welsh?
The Irendi, they flat out says, like, they have tourist guide on Fire Island come out with these Ifrit that are going to the prime material plane. So you got the tour guide going, over here we have water, and look, air, and we're standing on ground, and like, ooh, ah. It's like that will be, that will be 50 gold pieces. Oh, you want to go on the boat? Okay, they have like metal boats on Fire Island, so they can't melt they can't catch the wood boats on fire. And they're like, they take them out on like these steamships, and it's all canon. And yeah, Irendi is considered one of the weakest of the gazetteers, but it's still, you've got, you're a rich pasha Ifrit. What are you going to do with all this power? You're going to take a vacay to like fantasy Hawaii. That's how, you get the Genasi and the all the other ones, and the Magmen and all these guys, and they're all like, like a tour boat with, with a who's who of genies and fire elemental creatures. They're on their best behavior, but occasionally you got two factions of Ifrit or fire elemental genies that hate each other, and they're on the same boat. And then you get an Agatha Christie novel, only with a lot more fire than usual.
Love the idea of an Afridi tourist trap. That's incredible. That's really fun.
The fact that Agatha Christine came into it just finishes up. It's like the icing on the top there.
That's tier number 3. You can buy it over on the DM's Guild.
Yeah.
A lot of pop culture references that didn't age well, though.
Nice one.
With genies, I always find that there's some difficulty with the fact that I find that genies are like usually attached to the whole cautionary tale of like careful what you wish for or whatever. But a lot of the problems with running these cautionary tales in your games is that your players are genre savvy. They know to be careful what to wish for, usually. In my opinion, like, if you want to fulfill a genie careful what you wish for story, probably one of the best ways to do it is to have the players walk into, like, the aftermath of wishes gone wrong. Children who got a wish and destroyed their whole villages, and now you're, like, walking through a village full of evil animated toys or whatever. So just like encounters where the wish has already gone wrong by the time you got there and you have to sort it out. For me, I think that's a fun way to use genies.
Getting children in there again. I appreciate it.
Theme of the day.
They're probably living in this scenario, but not necessarily.
Yeah.
Wait, wasn't that the plot to Wonder Woman 1984?
I didn't watch
Do
it.
they have to be? Do they have to be living?
Jeez,
Okay.
guys. I love the idea of some kid being like, I wish my imaginary friend was real, and it's like a Shoggoth or some like horrible creature from the far realm that's just wreaking havoc and all the like wizards of the realm. Like, how could this happen? Like, how did this creature get here?
I think there was an old Twilight Zone episode, I didn't watch it, but where it's like a kid is like God, and being that he's like 8 or something, it just completely destroys the entire town. Everyone's his slave because 8-year-olds are demanding, and like scenarios like that I think would be really good.
The Ron Howard episode, Send Him to the Cornfield, classic episode.
Yeah, so shout out to one of your videos recently, Josiah, about the Kyle,
Like,
a genie that's not elemental in the classic sense, but of the Shadowfell. I thought it was so interesting.
Mallory already knows why I'm shaking my head. The pronunciation of that genie is the Kahile, which is how I was going to pronounce it in the video, and then I found like
Oh.
3 separate pronunciation guides that told me it was Kale, and I was like, that seems wrong, but like if 3 different websites are telling me that, then I guess. And then a bunch of people who were familiar with some of the languages that word came from were like, oh, it's pronounced Kyle, and I'm like,
He came to me before recording that video and was just like, how would you pronounce this? And I was like, Kyle, and he was like, yeah, you would. It was amazing.
anyways, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I was going to talk about this when it was my turn. You brought it up. I'm filled with anger.
I love that concept. I'm playing right now a Phantom Rogue, and it kind of spoke to me. I'm not a Genasi of the Kyle. So is that Kyle? Is that okay? Anyway, I thought that was super interesting. If you're interested, if that sounds cool, like go check out his video. I also at some point I went down a rabbit hole of real world lore from like Hebrew and Arabic history about jinn, and I think it's super fascinating. There's stories about King Solomon having a ring that supposedly made a genie in servitude to him and like protected him. I think it would be really cool in a D&D setting to have a king have a ring like that, and everyone says, yeah, it's a genie that serves him because of that ring, and if you mess with him, the genie will mess with you and you won't even see it. And the players have to wonder if it's even true or not. Like, is it just hearsay of like, is it just a nice ring and the king's just trying to make people scared of him, or is it a real magical ring that they want to take? I think that would be really intriguing. And then also some of the lore behind jinn have to do with them appearing in places where war is going on, and they possess people or they shapeshift and just do weird, horrible things. And people would have these stories from war of something horrible. They saw someone with like black eyes, like no pupils, did something horrible, or something otherworldly happened they couldn't explain, and that's like the jinn. And they're born from fire that has no smoke, and I think that's so cool. And so that real world stuff is really fun, and I like the idea of like jinn inserting themselves into war to make war worse, kind of like the homunculi from Full Metal Alchemist, how they would shapeshift and fuel the war for their ends. And so if you want to do a Full Metal Alchemist campaign, look at the real world jinn lore. That'll help you out. I like that a genie warlock exists now, that's a patron you can have, because warlocks, kind of like ghosts we just talked about, can possess people. It could be that a genie warlock is literally possessed by a genie who has escaped from a king, like King Solomon, who maybe had a ring that controlled it, and now that warlock has it, and the genie's just trying to stay out of power. But maybe that person who used to control the genie is going to try to take that ring or that lamp or whatever they have that makes them akin to that genie, and that could be a whole thing, is like running away from those who want that power back.
I really like that.
One very, very quick monster idea I had on the topic of kids was that I mean, you guys are all familiar with the concept of Make-A-Wish kids. What if there was like a group of noble jinn who were doing the Make-A-Wish thing in a D&D world, but like
You can call them
But-
diaper genies.
yeah, but they were actually, you know, going around the world to find like the most either sickly or impoverished or whatever kids, and just would show up, be like, "What's up, kid? You've been selected this month by the Council of Jinn in whatever far off floating city in the plane of air to be our this month's Make-A-Wish kid. So what do you want?" They're like, "Oh, I don't know." And they make a wish, they grant it, and then leave. And chaos ensues. That said, the thing that I had written down, I like the idea of genies kind of interfering with mortals, either for their own ends or just for their own amusement, which is something very typical of what the Kahail might do, the shadow genies, or just any disgruntled genie, really. I like the idea of a genie just going around and granting wishes to kind of whoever and just creating chaos. Like, if a bunch of people wish for treasure, like say 1,000 people in this huge city wish for a bunch of treasure, suddenly like the economy is wrecked. It costs like 1,000 gold pieces for a loaf of bread. It's just madness in the streets. There are people walking around who are like 20 foot tall and like super muscular because they wish for strength or whatever. Just everyone's wishes are coming true, and the resulting chaos from that. And the adventuring party has been tasked by maybe some other genie belonging to one of the other genie subtypes who like is aware of what's going on and is like, "Look, like I'm busy with stuff going on in the plane of air or the plane of earth or whatever, but you guys have my blessing. Here's some magic items. Go try to hunt down the guy who's doing all this, because if he just keeps granting wishes, suddenly our ability to grant wishes is just worthless. And also, it's gonna maybe destroy the material plane if it continues this way."
My wife just wrote a short story that is pretty much that. It's a demon that's like it's a town of gnomes, and there's this gnome who he gets a cup from this demon that can like overflow with as much money as he wants, but he has to keep it secret. So he always goes to the tavern and just buys everyone drinks. But then someone else gets the same cup from the same demon, and then they think, "Oh, well, I'm so charitable, I'm going to give it over to like our city's government and give us like all the money we need to do everything." And it goes very poorly. And the whole time the first guy was like, "Don't give it to anyone, like keep it secret." And she's like, "No, I'm a good person. It's super good, and I'd love to share it with you sometime."
Yeah,
Just
absolutely. That's
throwing that out
has
there.
she posted that or put it up anywhere, or is
No, she's kind of writing just like an anthology of different short stories,
that very
and
cool?
she's very eclectic. She jumps from project to project, and that was one that she's very eloquent. Like, she hasn't written a lot, but man, it blew me away. I think she's just really good at reading other great authors and making that her own. So,
Channeling that,
but anyway,
yeah.
I digress. I'll definitely see if she's okay with me sharing that with you.
Yeah, I'd love to check that out. That's kind of been like a meme within the tabletop community for a really long time, that adventurers just like wreck the economy. But anytime there's some tremendous influx of wealth, especially into like a smaller community too, it has potential for chaos in the weirdest, most boring way. But
Hyperinflation is the real final boss.
yeah, the economancer, yeah.
Everyone's a ghost, and the economy's in shambles.
Everyone's a ghost child, and the economy is wrecked. Yeah.
I don't know that there's anything left for me to really talk about that you guys haven't really kind of covered. I mean, you covered all the cool stuff. I know I have to fall back on the stereotypical garbage that is generally pumped out. So I'm just going to have to say, I guess, Aladdin. You can do the lamp genie thing hidden in the cave, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm talking about. You know the story of Aladdin. Okay, yeah. Genie enslaving the world. Yeah, Aladdin again. Let's move back to that one again. And, evil wizard trying to become a genie. I think that's Aladdin 2. Is that Aladdin 2? I think that's Aladdin 2. The only
Also,
one...
technically Aladdin 1.
Well,
Just
yeah, I
only
suppose
like
that's...
a couple minutes of it.
Yeah. yeah, that's right. So I've just given you Aladdin as an idea, which none of you really needed because you all have watched it already.
I need to chime in here because I have a very brief anecdote. I once had a player pull in Aladdin. They received a
I thought you were
genie's.
going to talk about playing Aladdin behind you as your background. And I was
No,
like,
that's a
Josiah,
whole.
stop
No
it,
one needs to hear
Josiah.
about that. Fun fact for the folks at home, though: did you know on Zoom, if you have a green screen, you can set your green screen to any video file on your computer? For a long time, the live action Aladdin just was my background. Whenever we would have meetings and stuff, I would just join it and be like, "Oh, we're in Act 3 today." I once had the players we rolled for randomly, and they found a noble Ifrit lamp in a dragon's hoard, and the monk, she was the one to rub the lamp. It came out, granted her 3 wishes, and the first words out of her mouth with like 3 seconds later she said, "Oh, I want to be a genie," and everyone simultaneously at the table like slammed down and leaned forward and went, "No!" and I was like, she said it already. And she of course became an Ifrit. Mechanically we had to work that was a whole thing, but it ended up becoming very funny because of course she had new powers and that kind of thing. But then there was like I introduced an element of bureaucracy where she was like receiving summons from like the Grand Sultan of the Brass City and stuff to like fulfill her duties as part of their, and she was like, "I don't want to do this," and then they just like ignored it, and then eventually a group of Ifrit showed up and were like, "Hey, so you haven't been attending the meetings, kind of need to attend the meetings if you're going to be in Ifrit." And then they spent a couple sessions in the bureaucracy of the City of Brass and the Plane of Fire. Anyways, yeah, so all I'm saying is if your player ever pulls an Aladdin, or really it's pulling a Jafar, wishing to be a genie, just let them. It's a good time.
I was considering this and I was like, how do you even make this a game? So it was not my idea, and I had my new cooler, awesomer idea that I presented to you. But my bad idea from before the cooler, awesomer idea is like somebody befriends a genie and they just keep using their last wish to wish the other one free and make them a genie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you get a wish, then you make him a genie, and then yourself free or whatever, right?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
It's an infinite loop of free wishes and freedom. So
I
you
feel
just
like
take turns.
that's how you get an inevitable to come after you.
I don't know what that means.
Inevitables
I'm so
are
those-
sorry.
constructs that like enforce cosmic law. So if they're like, someone on the
Yeah.
material plane is casting wish like 40 times a day, that's weird. Like, go check that out.
You've also got the ones that the wish givers that have the ulterior motives. Like if anybody remembers the movie Wishmaster with Andrew Divoff, where like the third wish frees him and he gets to destroy everything. Granted, that's why I always make my third wish. I wish you wouldn't grant this wish. Or the creature, the Rexen, where they just want to kill things, but they can only kill things in the service of someone else. So no matter what your wish you make of them, there's going to be a body count. It's like if you wish that like your heart didn't hurt anymore, they would go out and find a heart donor for you and leave bloody footprints all the way back to your house.
Take the most violent path possible to fulfill whatever your wish is.
And they will always leave no doubt over who made that wish, because they will bring all the evidence straight back to the person that made the wish. They don't really want to grant the wish; they just want to kill people. But hey, they can ruin 2 lives in one go.
You know what came to my mind is I've always been fascinated with the concept of like words have power. Maybe it's because of Skyrim, where it's like you learn special words, and I know it's not Skyrim's invention, but that's what hit it home for me. And so I'm often fascinated with like the verbal components of spells and stuff in D&D and different languages. It'd be really interesting if you were really pushing that kind of lore of like words of power. Like your words have power innate to them in the magic of the world, but when you make wishes with a genie, maybe they even have full intention of giving power to whatever words come out of your mouth. Like you said, like your friend said, "I want to be a genie." And even if they took it back, if it wasn't their intent, the words had power. But maybe the genies just have this like innate warping the power of those words. And so maybe whether they like it or not, they're kind of like jinxes, where they have this like innateness to them, like an aura that just like fumbles up words. So the words still have power, but it muddles them in some way. That would be super cool.
I like that a lot.
That's why I always make my first wish. I wish you grant all my wishes to the spirit and letter of the wish.
That's a good wish.
Yeah.
That's a great wish. You're sacrificing one of your potential wishes, but the other one's not going to like murder you or do something horrible, I think
Yeah.
that's worth it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So with the whole power of words thing, languages change over time. So the way the words work may not be the way they did when the cosmos was ordered, or the language almost certainly did not exist when the cosmos was ordered. But you know what I mean, where however the words are used now is not how they were set up to use according to the genie's magic.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Genies. Oh, I just hit my camera. So genies, when they mess up people's wishes, it's because they just ran their words through Google Translate like 100 times.
Translation Party.
That's-
Did you guys ever know of Translation Party? It would translate. You would type something in. It would translate it to Japanese, translate it back to English until it reaches
Okay,
equilibrium.
I didn't know that's what it was called, but yes, that's
Amazing.
exactly what I'm talking
So
about. That's
fun.
what genies are
Yes.
doing. They're trying to take your words and make it the cosmos words from when the universe was made, and it doesn't come out right.
That's really interesting. I love that, like the idea that language evolves so that there might be some disconnect there. I think that's really, like, does that mean it would be maybe in your best interest to make your wish in a language like primordial or one of the other languages that has
Yeah.
been around a lot longer because it's more likely to be construed correctly?
That would be super interesting to say, hey, these languages are more likely to have their true intent honored with different creatures and wish type magic. That would be super interesting.
Like, does that mean
Esperanto.
Yeah. Yeah, Esperanto, exactly. All wishes should be in Esperanto for sure. Yeah, I think that the whole idea of like words possessing power is really interesting because I don't know if this is really part of their lore in 5th edition. I don't think it's like decanonized. I just don't. The lore sections in the 5e books just aren't as big as some of the past editions. And something that always used to be really intriguing to me when it came to genies specifically is that there's this idea that all magic has to be drawn from a source, right? So most like arcane magic is drawn from the weave. I mean, this varies from setting to setting, but talking about like the Forgotten Realms, just because that's what most people are familiar with 5th edition anyway. You have like ley lines, like your arcane magic that comes from the weave. And then you have divine magic, which is drawn from deities and that kind of thing. And then druids are kind of in that weird space where it's like nature magic, but that's still considered divine magic. You're just drawing it from like nature gods and spirits and that kind of thing. The whole idea with genies was that they have access to an avenue of magic that is inaccessible to any other entities, which is why they can grant wishes. And like, they're not necessarily more powerful than some of the other crazy outsiders out there, but like, they can do things that no one else can do because they're not accessing divine magic and they're also not drawing on the weave. They innately have an understanding of this like third mysterious source, and that access to that is their closest guarded secret. And it's like the one thing that all the races do have in common is they don't want anyone else to have an understanding of magic the way that they do. So while like Efreet and Jin definitely hate each other and are definitely at war all the time, it could be interesting if there were some kind of plot line to arise where that secret of this third path was in danger of being discovered by some malignant entity that seek to use it for their own gain, and all of the different genie races kind of had to come together and be like, okay, well, all the wars are on pause for a second, let's maybe stop this from happening. And of course, if you wanted to approach that from a DMing perspective, that's a great type of weird geopolitical quandary to have your players mixed up in, because even if they're all working together, you know that there's going to be backstabbing and secret conversations and ulterior motives and all that stuff. So,
And always run your wishes through a lawyer first.
That was my little emo genie. He just wants what's best for everybody.
always have a good devil on hand to read through your wishes before you make them.
There is a law firm in Sigil in Planescape that all he does is handle the wording of wishes.
That's incredible. I love that. It makes sense. It just makes sense, right? It's one of those things where if you're like, oh, okay, wishes exist, and this is a consistent problem, it makes perfect sense that there is someone who is like running a business basically to deal with that. Where there's a need, there's a business usually, right? So
There's an old movie called The Golden Voyages of Sinbad. And in The Golden Voyages of Sinbad, okay, so Glenn already knows what I'm talking about. There is actually a genie who acts as an oracle. And so you seek out the oracle to get some information about where you need to go next, where to find something of importance. Helpful genie. Only problem is the genie has a price, and it's usually it takes somebody with them. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you got your answer, but somebody is now either reduced to ash, but more likely now taken with the genie back home, and now servitude for who knows how long, doing who knows what. The other idea nobody had mentioned, which is probably why nobody's mentioned it, is the nature of it. We'll see. So I think nowadays it would be deemed as inappropriate, so I'm going to say it anyway. How about a genie who is a live-in housewife for one of the NPCs, who's possibly the patron, and is extremely jealous of anybody who comes into the house or has any involvement with the patron. And of course, the players' characters are going to be making a big Do you know where I'm going with this, do you, Mallory?
I never realized how problematic I Dream of Jeannie was until you just described it without naming it. I never realized how awful that is. Like, she was always just like, mister, and like, it was cute, and like, we liked her.
Who was ever going to complain about Barbara playing I Dream of Jeannie?
Pitching the campaign title, I Dream of Ifrit.